Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast number 758.
Wow. That's a lot.
It really
I'll
is.
just say that every time we say a number because it's always going to be a lot. It's going to be more than the last time.
More each time.
Every time I'm in on.
As we slowly creep towards 1,000. This episode is brought to you by Mozilla.org, the new Firefox. Fast for good. Mozilla builds products, technology, and programs that make the internet a little bit healthier of a place. Since using it helps Mozilla grow a healthier internet for everyone, you get to do good too and contribute. Learn more and download the new Firefox 2 times faster at Mozilla.org. What do you got on the nerd? Well, first of all, do you want to promote anything? You guys are changing your Tampa date for Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs?
Tampa date is being rescheduled. We haven't got that on the books yet, but I'll promote the closest show first. If you're in Los Angeles or Pasadena, we're going to Pasadena. We're going to be at the Ice House on December 5th, 2015. Kevin Smith and I will be talking some salad and some scrambled eggs. It's a podcast about Frasier where we do an audio commentary for a Frasier episode that nobody asked for, and we insisted on recording anyway. But the first half of the show really is just loose. It's just Kevin and I shooting the shit. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to like Frasier to come, but you do have to like us.
That's very helpful. Also, I want to say that speaking of eggs, that...
Are you going to start talking about Twitter beef you had with someone who had an egg profile?
No! Oh, God. That could take up months. I could just do that for months. No. So Puny, which is the animation company that I bought half of with my friend Shadi Petoskey, did a pilot for Amazon Prime called Danger and Eggs. And it's a kid's show, but
Great segue.
I feel like it's also for animation nerds and stoners. But the show's really fun. Adie Bryant is in it. She's in SNL, and it's an Amazon Prime pilot program. So if you watch it and comment and rate, then the more it gets, the more chance it has of getting
going to series. Yeah,
going to series. So
Amazon lives in this weird meritocracy where you can just like stuff.
How dare you make
and
sense?
They make more.
Yeah. So it's called Danger and Eggs. It's on Amazon Prime. Please watch it and. Rate it and comment on it.
Don't know what to do with the salad and Danger Eggs.
They're calling again. They're rating again. What do you got on the Nerds Community Corkboard, Katie Levine?
Ron Funches, who we all love, has an album coming out this Friday. It's called The Funches of Us, and the artwork is awesome. Look at that artwork.
Saw that. It's beautiful. The world has ended. It's Funches.
God, it's him and his son. It comes out, again, this Friday, November 13th, and you can pre-order it now on iTunes or Amazon or anywhere. And also, check out it was last week's episode of Chewing It with Kevin and Steve. They filmed the first week of Super Troopers 2, and they talk all about it, and it's really cool.
Also, if you haven't downloaded the Make Tech Human podcast yet, I'd appreciate it if you would. A lot of you have responded.
It was
hard to find on iTunes because I've just discovered that the way that Wired made me name this podcast is hashtag Make Tech Human, all one word.
Yep, I saw that on Twitter.
Oh, no. So there's no way to...
Well, I've gone in and just tried to fix some tags. It's going to be a little more searchable right now, but if you search one word, Make Tech Human, download it. There's a new episode coming out.
We dare you to find it.
There's a new episode coming out this Wednesday. So if you're busy listening to this podcast and you want your computer to be doing something in the meantime, maybe you download the Make Tech Human podcast. I'd appreciate it. And you know what? So would the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't know if he would. Really? Did it check out?
I don't know.
So would Yahweh.
All right, perfect. This episode is our dear, wonderful friend, Emily Gordon, who is one of the most awesome, smartest, coolest people in the universe. She is promoting her book, Super You, Release Your Inner Superhero, available wherever books are sold now.
It's available literally right now.
It's
so
available
right now.
It's
and
amazing.
Emily is so rad, and she's part of the team that does the Meltdown with Jonah.
Emily is writing this season on the Carmichael Show.
Yeah,
oh, my
Gerard
God.
Carmichael.
Staff writer on that.
Fucking awesome.
Emily is a jack of all trades.
There's nothing she can't do. And also, she's in the Indoor Kids podcast with Kumail.
Jack of literally all trades. The last trade was podcasting.
All right, do it. This is Nerdist Podcast number 758 with Emily Gordon. Katie!
Now entering Nerdist.com.
Lately, I've not been holding mics at things, but I'm going to try to.
That's just, the evolution of you.
How do you do indoor kids?
Like this.
That's weird. I feel like your arm would get tired holding your mic stand up.
But my biceps have been great these days.
So you got, but it's just like one crazy ripped arm from doing those curls.
I'm like those creepy truckers that like one half their faces is sun damaged, but the other one isn't. Have you seen that?
Just say truckers.
Yeah. I think, no, a lot of truckers listen to the podcast. They're good dudes.
On this podcast, we're anti-trucker.
The only, no, that's at Matt Myra is the Twitter account.
The person who said that information?
Yeah, that was the only good part of Lady in the Water was the one dude who just worked out one arm. They could have just cut everything else out of that movie and just had been that one character.
We were doing a thing back and forth of movies that take place in apartment buildings, like trying to name all the ones we could think of, and that was one I had forgotten about that someone reminded me, and I was like, oh, there's a reason I forgot about that
Karate Kid
one.
count?
It really bummed me out.
No.
It doesn't. So much of it takes place in the school. To me, I'm thinking
At the All Valley Karate Tournament.
The Raid. I'm thinking
because it takes place more at Miyagi's place in the apartment. They just meet at the apartment. And he gets his ass kicked.
I just really feel like the apartment played a huge role in that movie.
I will say that when we moved to LA, we were looking for apartments. Every apartment complex we saw, to me, reminded me of that like parched, sun-dried.
Well, the real star of that movie was Reseda.
Obviously.
Oh yeah,
I think was the real star of that movie.
Reseda.
Yeah, there's a lot of those buildings around.
I don't know if you know this, but Tom Petty wrote "Free Fallin'" about Karate Kid.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing if that was true.
Ventura Boulevard.
Living in Reseda.
Yeah.
That's right. That song, and then Sheryl Crow. Those are my own. And then there's a Mountain Goat song that talks about Los Angeles.
You almost wonder if these people write songs on the way to the studio.
There's a Yoshinoya beef bowl coming up on the left.
There's a lot of traffic. I'll be there in a minute.
We don't have Waze yet, but I bet it'll
What
be
is that? I think I just had a vision. Lots of porn and hot dogs. I'm so happy that you're finally on our podcast.
I am too.
Emily Gordon, of course, co-host of the Indoor Kids.
Of course.
The Coast to Coast.
Coast to Coast.
And also your spouse, Kumail Nanjiani, has been on before, and he's in some stuff.
Yeah.
And I've always adored you. You were the first director of the Nerdist Theater.
I was.
Emily Gordon was the first director of the Nerdist showroom at Meltdown.
I don't think either of us realized how big of a job that was going to be.
And yet you held on to it for like a year or two.
I did it for about 2 years, and you were like, I remember you were like, I think it's going to be like a couple shows a week or something. I don't know. We'll just have fun with it. And I was like, okay. And then
and then 7 nights a week of programming.
Again,
in addition to
champagne
you still producing the Meltdown
Absolutely,
show on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, it was a fun, and I got to come up with, and unfortunately the very nerdy organized part of me, I got to come up with like how the emails go out to like producers and what we need to like account for, like how many microphones need to be on stage, I got to come up with all that stuff.
You know, the curse of being a well organized, well adjusted, smart person is that everyone will lean on you to do shit.
I know,
so
well,
it's kind of a
Deal with it.
You have to. You have to get good. You have to. Matt's having his own podcast.
Yeah, right. Hey, buddy.
He's just saying stuff to his fiance. But you know, I think I would imagine. And tell me if I'm right about this. Do you feel like you have to be good at saying no to things because you're so capable that you have to learn how to pick and choose?
That's a very flattering thing to say. I'm so good at stuff that like I have to get so good at saying no. But it is true. I used to be so grateful for any opportunity that anybody would slide my way that I'd be like, yes, always yes. I'll figure out how to make it work. Yes. And then after a while I was like, oh, I'm hurting myself. And also all the stuff I'm doing is starting to suffer. So I have
Isn't it strange that sometimes it's kinder to say no to things?
That's what, and I always try to say, I'm like, I'm going to be very transparent with you because if I do this, I'll do a poor job. You won't be happy. I won't be happy. I can't handle doing a poor job. So it's better for me to say no and help you find someone that can do this because I am. And I do enjoy being, for a long time, I resisted how organized I was. But I used to like organize my stuffed animals in my bed, like by how their relations
and a lot of those pictures
other.
are on Instagram. Your Instagram feed is fucking amazing. These adorable pictures because it's some people look totally different when they're kids, but I can so much see adult Emily's face in Tiny Emily.
Tiny Emily, yes. Teenage Emily, I kind of disappeared in there for a little bit. But like little tiny me, you can see like this like, hey, I'm sorry, that penguin is in the wrong place. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
People should. You're just. Is it Emily? Is it just Emily Gordon on Instagram,
No,
or is
it's
it Emily?
the Dynamite. It's
the Dynamite. The Dynamite. Yeah, the Dynamite, which is also your
Great
Twitter
branding.
handle as well.
Real terrible.
Keep it across the board.
Should have thought that through. Sure.
No, it's great. Yes, you're one of 50 people that I follow on Instagram, and I'm always delighted by the old pictures.
Weird. Why do you keep it at 50?
It's just a nice round number.
Yeah.
It's one thing. Like, look. I follow like 700 people on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just too much to keep up on.
It's a lot of people.
50 is a manageable number
You don't necessarily
on
have
Instagram.
to keep up on it. You know what I mean?
I do.
I like Instagram because I like it not only it's more engaging than just looking at 140 characters
Mm-hmm.
of text.
Well, it's 1,000 words.
I love the images, and I also love the.
We all were like, we're going to ignore that.
I love the images. Matt's own podcast, but I also just enjoy it's honestly how I catch up with a lot of people and my friends and see what they're up to and where they're going and
Where
what
they
they're
are.
doing. And so to me, my Instagram feed is much more personal than a Twitter feed, where it's like, oh, I kind of like that person. I'll just kind of see what jokes they tweet out. But Instagram feels much more like
You get to see into their lives,
I want to see
yeah.
into their lives, and I want to hang out with them a little bit. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, and I also have a thing where I have to get to the last picture that I remember seeing. Like, I'll keep scrolling. I can't stop until I get to that last.
Same thing.
And I've had to pull over like while driving to be like, okay, I'm sorry, hold on, let me just. All right, and that's like a little thing goes off in my head. I'm like, all right, I can keep going now. I'm good. I've figured out my Instagram.
Yeah, you shouldn't Instagram and drive. I don't know if you.
Well, that's probably true. Let's say I'm sitting at a stoplight and then I'll pull over.
Officer,
after
I
the
wasn't
stoplight.
texting. I was Instagramming. It's different. You moron. Get with the times, shitbag.
And I try to explain Snapchat and his head falls off. What am I supposed to do
Then you
with that?
Snapchat that.
Which I don't do. Do you do that?
I've been trying to get my name on Snapchat for a while. Someone was squatting it and not using it, so I'm in the process of doing that. So it's been delayed.
Yeah.
Twitter owns them, right?
No, Twitter does not own Snapchat. They're independent.
That's right. You're right. I'm thinking of, what am I thinking? Vine. That's what I'm thinking.
Twitter owns Vine, and they own Periscope. Those
didn't
are
even
the
realize
two
that.
that Twitter have.
That's very
they own more than that. I think Twitter also bought TweetDeck.
They own
And
Kellogg
half
cereals.
of New Jersey, right?
Yeah, Kellogg cereals, half of New Jersey, Crest toothpaste. They were trying to get that other kind, but they only got Crest.
That other
here we go.
kind.
They
I was trying to
own
think of one other kind.
Colgate.
They own the generic bags of cereal at the bottom of the aisle.
Which
they
are
own
my
all
favorite.
those. No.
Yeah, I like a cereal. in a bag.
Tostios. Wait a minute. Sugar Flakes. Come on. Who you tricking? Come on.
Me. That's who you're tricking.
But I had sent Kumail a text. Kumail congratulated me on my engagement, and I sent him a very sincere text where I said, honestly, you and Emily are very inspirational to me because you guys have been married for what, like
8 years?
8 years,
Yeah.
and
It's a long time.
Obviously you never know what it's like when you're not around a couple, but you seem to have a very good relationship, and you seem to have a very strong relationship in light of the fact that both of your careers are taking off, and you still genuinely seem to care about each other, and it's very inspirational to see that. Like, relationships can work.
Oh, that's lovely. That makes me very happy. And also, that is congratulations to you. What a huge.
Oh, thanks.
It's going to be a big,
Yeah.
big thing.
It's gonna be this one's doing it in a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
I'll
Here.
get the dry run out of the way, Chris.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, what was Jonah's then?
We can see what a unlimited budget would be like.
Yours is the dry run. What was Jonah's?
Jonah's was the outline.
It's marriage. Like any relationship is it's always got challenges, but like we kind of made a very clear decision. Like we've got to be on each other's team. We've got to be a unified front no matter what. And like we will remind ourselves that even as we're fighting, maybe as we were this past weekend in a hotel room because we didn't feel like recording a podcast with our 2 hours that we had to spare while we were in Austin. And setting up to record a podcast can really bring out the best and the worst in everybody.
Well, that's an interesting point that you bring up because the one thing my therapist told me something a long time ago that resonated with me.
Which one's this? Is this Batman's mom?
This was not Batman's mom.
Okay.
She's dead. I didn't know if you guys knew this. The very basics of superheroes.
God, so well played. There's not even anything to add to that. I mean, that was just perfect. The part that you missed from
Martha.
yesterday is that the kid who plays Batman on Gotham.
Okay.
He plays Bruce Wayne, not Batman. The kid who plays Bruce Wayne on Gotham. His mom was my therapist years and years and years ago.
Amazing.
Many years ago.
Okay.
So that's what Matt was referencing, but you stuck the landing
How would I?
on that.
Yeah.
And
I think we should end the podcast.
I mean, I don't know. I think we should just
Thank
stop
you
doing
guys so
all of
much.
us should stop doing podcasts altogether. It's not going to get more perfect than that.
If that's not the fucking AV Club quote of the week, I don't know what is.
Come on, guys. Let's get that pod mass.
We're not cool enough for AV Club anymore. We're too mainstream.
And honestly,
point.
you guys have moved to the point where, like, obviously you're listening to that. Here are some other ones. I feel like that's how it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what Podmas
That's what it
does.
started.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's what it started as.
But I think that that the success that relationships that are successful stem from kindness. That when two people are committed to being kind to one another, that's what carries people through everything. Because
bullshit, yeah.
you know, there are times in a relationship where it's like, I feel you just feel bad about yourself, or you just feel bad in general, and you're just not always super on board to have a person in your face. But as long as, like you said, you are always committed to understanding one another, even when you don't agree, or being kind to one another, even when you don't agree, then that's the ultimate goal. Because sometimes you just, you know, when you get to the point where you're just fighting to fight, then there's nothing is being accomplished.
It's really sad. And there's so many couples that get to a point where, like, that little, like, kernel of resentment they feel towards one another, instead of, like, making the choice to, like, no, I chose you a long time ago and I'm still choosing you. They start, like, that little kernel of resentment builds up and they're like, oh, fucking, why always you, always with you. And then it builds and then it builds. And then at a certain point, you can't go back.
well, that's the active word, is that
you just described a pregnancy.
you can't have a
At some point,
late-term
you cannot go back.
marriage abortion. But
Actually, you can. I've done it. It's
You
great.
can. But it's that idea of, and it's not just relationships, but it's sobriety, it's anything else. But I think people forget that there is an element of choosing daily. You daily make the choice, as opposed to, fuck, I chose that person 5 years ago.
Look what I'm stuck with.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to making the daily choice to be with that person and be committed. And, you know, and I think our human brains tend to score on a pass or fail, like a 0 or 100%.
Yes.
But a lot of life is like 60 or 70, 80%. Like very few things are perfect
Black
or
or
not,
white.
or a disaster.
I completely agree with you.
And so I think, you know, sometimes when there's trouble in a situation or relationship, people are like, oh, this isn't perfect. Fuck this. It's like, yeah, well, you know, this is kind of how life is. You have to, like, not everything's going to be perfect. You have to not obsess over that.
Yeah, and I do think, and I think we all have plenty of friends that have dated people, and then a week, it's like Seinfeldian, where like, oh, her hands are too big, or like she smells weird when she wakes up in the morning. Like, okay, well, that can be your reason for not, like, that
It's
can be
because of
the
her big
reason.
sweaty hands. That's why she smells weird in the morning.
Yeah, they build up little things in the crevices.
Yeah.
You can come up with literally any reason to, like, be like, well, I got to get out of this because this person's not perfect, because nobody's going to ever be perfect. But you have to, like, it is like sobriety. It's one day at a time. Every single day you're like, oh, I want to hang out with you today. And you also need to be a person that someone would want to hang out with every day.
Well,
that's the different part.
Also, a lot of times being able to say, like, you know, what is this really about? What is this really about?
I'm all about the what is this really about?
Yeah, because if it is like the kernel of resentment that's basically turned into a supernova of hatred,
Yep.
you know,
9 months.
And then you have a beautiful baby. A beautiful divorce baby.
then you know, is it really about, you know, you left the keys over here.
Exactly.
It's goddamn keys.
Yes. I always tell people it's okay to be afraid of something, and it's okay to be afraid of success, to be afraid of committing yourself to someone. But what's not cool is to come up with all these other bullshit reasons that obscure it. Like, admit that it's a fear, admit that it's a whatever, I'm not ready for whatever reason, and then address that instead of like, well, another girl wasn't good for me.
Right.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly it. It could be. I meet so many guys that just don't want to be in a relationship, but they tell themselves that they do. So they keep dating these girls and then being like, well, it didn't work out. She's not perfect.
Right.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you're not either,
I guess-
asshole. Guess what?
I guess poor her or whatever. But like, if you don't want to be in a relationship, that's perfectly fine. But that's what you need to be addressing or just accepting about yourself.
Two people in a relationship need to have the same goals.
100%.
They need to have the same goals, even if they don't have the same likes on across every bit. They need to have the same ultimate goal.
Yes.
And if you don't have that, that's problematic in the long term. You can deal with that in the short term.
Yeah.
But it's problematic in the long term not to have the same goals. What you were you actually a working therapist?
Yeah. 6.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, couples and family therapist, licensed in several different states for 6.5 years. And I had a hard time working with couples because that level of acrimony was just like, it was intense, man.
How do you not take that home? How do you, when someone is gushing all of their bullshit onto you, and as a therapist, and as being someone who's been in therapy and gushed all my bullshit onto someone, I'm one of however many people you're seeing in a day, or that person
Sure.
is seeing in a day. So how do you not personalize that? Like, what protective armor do you have to keep?
I think my program did a really good job of teaching us things that we can do to kind of wash off the day, because it's not insensitive to say you don't want a therapist that hangs on to your problems hardcore. Like, people are like, well, that means you don't care. Well, of course I care, but if I held on to all your stuff all the time, I'd be dead. So I had a very elaborate hand washing ritual. I know it sounds weird, but like, I had a thing I would do at the end of every session, and then a thing I would do at the end of every day of like, I've got to leave this here. I can't take this with me. But I imagine it's not unsimilar to what you go through go through is not the right term, after live shows, when people want to kind of come up to you and talk to you because you've affected their lives. How do you not keep that with you?
Well, because that's different, because I'm seeing people at their best.
Good point. That's
You know
a very
what I
good
mean?
point.
Like,
yeah.
people are coming up to me, and even if they have a sad story, it's like, you helped me get through this or whatever. They're expressing appreciation, and I, as someone who remembers, didn't feel like it was that long ago that no one was coming out to see me. I'm very appreciative of it. And now it's kind of, now it's sort of gotten to the point where it's difficult for me to do post-show meet and greets because the theaters are bigger.
Yes.
And
everyone wants a little time.
And what ends up happening is that out of 1,500 people, if 400 people stay, it keeps the staff at the theater for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then the staff is forced to stay. Then it's like, who do I service? You know,
Yeah.
like, who am I? And then also just for me on wear and tear,
It is intense.
I have to get up at 5 o'clock the next morning to fly back home, and it's midnight, and so it just becomes a question of,
Well, it turns a 2-hour show into a 5-hour.
to a 5-hour show,
Yeah.
which I would do if I had an unlimited amount of energy and the staff had an unlimited amount of energy and didn't have curfews, or they didn't have to pay everyone to
Yeah.
stay extra, or it's like the staff has to get home to their families. So it's sort of a
It's tough.
it is
That's
tricky.
tough.
So I don't. So in answering your question, I just feel like people are. It's not like people are lavishing wonderful things onto you when they're sitting in your therapy room.
You're so good at this. You're such a great therapist.
God, I have to. I have to go home after this.
Can you sign my shirt? That's
No.
never happening.
Yeah.
I never signed a single shirt as a therapist. You. And honestly, it may be.
When someone's leaving, do I take a selfie? No.
Just a quick one. It maybe did make me a little. I'm so when any of my friends go through anything terrible, my knee jerk reaction is to be like, well, that's rough, but okay, let's and I move. I don't even process it for myself. I process it for them, and I don't even let it affect me. And so maybe it's kind of the armor is maybe still a little bit too there. Like if a friend of mine's family member passed away, and I immediately was like, well, grief is a process, and I started going into all this, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not even. This is my friend. This is their family member. This is I need to take a minute to have let this. I'm not a therapist here. This is my friend. So I think it's maybe a little seemingly dispassionate, perhaps, when people have bad things happen to them, because I immediately go into what can we do? How can we do? And that's not always.
And then when they start telling you all about the thing, you're like, we're gonna have to pick it up there next week. No, we're friends.
I'm gonna have to go. It's been 50 minutes. Yeah. So I think, and even so, I handle when emergencies happen, I handle them. I kind of immediately go into problem solving and don't let myself feel anything, sometimes until later, because that's not my role right now. And that's a tough thing to get out of. And maybe that's why I always kind of feel like a therapist, because to me, it's an identity that I'm not ever going to.
Does it automatically make you better at your personal relationship, or is it harder in your personal relationship?
Ask my husband. He would say maybe. I know, definitely not. And I'm not I also don't like that idea that all therapists are messes as well, and just trying to fix other people so they don't have to. I think it's a combination. I'm not necessarily better at any of this stuff. I'm divorced. Kumail's my second husband, so people used to make fun of me for that. And I was like, do you want someone seeing you that is in an unhappy and a not great relationship? You don't really want that. You want someone who's been through life.
Well, also, I mean, my guess is that you probably married young the first time.
Very, yeah.
And that doesn't.
It's amazing deduction, Chris.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Watson. But also that, you can't hold someone accountable who's 32 for a relationship choice that they made at 20. I mean, like that's it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to. This is a process, and you got to learn stuff, and that's part of your process, and you figured it out, and So I think that's a silly thing.
So I think people who think that I'm going to be better at all this stuff, that's incorrect. But I do have some tools, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily know how to. I can tell myself, in this situation I should do this, this, and this, and then I don't do it because it's my life, and I get to do whatever the fuck I want, and I don't have to do the right thing all the time. So I think, it kind of evens out a little bit. I hope.
You guys have the nicest, many Sundays in the summer, you guys would have little pool parties. And they were small, but, everyone there was just, they were, first of all, like comedy nerd dream parties of just like the Silicon Valley guys and Edgar Wright and, Lance Bangs and, like all these really great.
I had not thought about that, but yes.
Really great, talented.
Who want to swim. Honestly, we have a resource that they want. We have the thing that they want, which is water.
You should just test, like, hey, we're having the pool's not working.
No pool. Anybody coming? Yeah.
I gotta. No.
I really love that. I like having people over just to like be. I think that's a cool, and I used to put way too much effort into like planning parties, and I was like, it's way better if I'm just like, come over, we'll see what happens. And so that's what we've been trying to do this summer.
Yeah, but everyone's just really nice, and it's just a good group. I think it's a good time in comedy for good people, for nice people.
It does seem to be. I feel like there is more of a focus these days on things being excited and showing passion more so than being like bored or upset or angry by everything. And that still does well too, but I like that there's like people who are genuinely like a puppy dog excited about things, and that's what they're basing their work on. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, those interactions, because people come over and then it's like, oh, well, let's go to dinner or let's go to somewhere else. I don't know. I really sense the community behind it, and it feels nice to. It's not like I hang out with those people every night, sure. But it just feels nice to be in a good community of people that you respect, but also feel like, oh, I love your work, but I also like you as a person, and we're all kind of in the same boat. It's like the us and the Garfunkel and Oates and then Natasha
boat is in Emily and Camille's pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all in the same pool. I think.
We're all in the same pool together. Although I've not been in your pool yet.
You actually haven't gotten in. No.
Sometimes I just don't feel like getting wet.
I get that.
Although we just got a house that has a pool.
You did get it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we just got a.
That's very exciting. I know that's what you're talking about.
We're gonna we'll trade off with you.
Downsizing, huh?
Yep, that's right. We're downsizing.
Yep. I had never in my life had a pool, even a little bit. I went to a community pool growing up, and like the idea that I could. Yeah, I know it was Band-Aids everywhere. There was,
no.
Band-Aids and weird guys making weird. The guy who was the lifeguard was also our substitute bus driver. His name was Stone. I swear to God. And we all were in love with him. / he was creepy to us, but / he was paying attention to us. It was a very weird time. So that's how that was the only pool experience I had growing up, was like going to that. And then
Stone.
He had a mullet and one earring.
Sure he did.
Yeah. It's the 80s, North Carolina. What are you going to do?
Oh man. So you grew up in North Carolina.
I did.
Which you've shed any trace of anything.
If I'm angry, it comes out, or if I'm really tired, I'll start talking lightly. It's a little bit.
Do you really?
I get my accent will come back a little tiny bit. Does yours ever?
No, I don't think so. I never really had one because I was born in Kentucky and then lived in Florida for a couple of years, and then when I was like 8, we moved to Arkansas for 6 months, and then Memphis, and I was already a formed little person by the time I was actually living in the deep South.
So many parts of the South, though.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I always just say, when people go, where are you from? I go, Memphis, because it's just easier than, I was born in Kentucky, I lived in southern Florida, central Florida, Arkansas, Denver, Memphis, but Memphis was outside of Los Angeles. Memphis was the longest chunk of time.
Yeah.
So and also the most developmental
and the most like noticeable. Like that's a city people know. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Memphis. I get a sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, and my dad still lived there and now lives there forever.
Yeah.
Because he's not alive anymore.
Him and Elvis Aaron Presley.
Yeah, him and Elvis Aaron Presley. They're right there.
I like that you use the middle name.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen that often.
King deserves it.
You think about it. His middle name is Aaron.
Aaron.
What if his name?
Tombstone spelled wrong, guys.
If he was just Aaron.
He's not really in there.
He's not. Where is he?
He is in there.
They say he's in there.
But
He's definitely in there.
the whole theory of Elvis being still
That was
alive.
the guy
alive,
that we
yeah.
picked. We were like, he's the one. For whatever reason, he's alive. We don't know
Watch
why.
the fucking 68 comeback special. I
have watched
I
it.
just watched it
It's
a couple
so
weeks
good.
ago. I'm like, it's like, oh, that, yeah. I
Is
get
that
it.
the black leather one or
Yeah,
the white?
that's
The
the
black
black
leather
leather.
one. Whew.
That's the fucking. He hadn't been around in a couple of years, and then he just shows up with his buddies and just fucking rocks it on NBC.
He really does. But if you think about it, the amount of stuff he did to his body to get ready for that
man
is really bad for him. And I was like, maybe you should have just not done that, and we could have kept you around longer.
Ah,
Little
Well,
guy.
yeah, but it was everything that happened between then and, was it 74?
72.
76. When did he die? 76. Maybe it was 76.
Yeah, I think you're right.
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Because he had a Martin D35 Bicentennial Edition, which was released in 1970.
Oh, who's Sherlock now?
Is that a
Guitar lock?
Is that a bicycle or a?
It's a guitar.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I only remember because I was old enough. Yeah, he had a bicycle on stage.
Ding, 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 just like auga.
Hey, you guys, I think we should start bringing these bicycles on stage now. People really like these bicycles.
And every woman's like, I'll be the seat. It's
All right,
fine.
King. Yeah, whatever you want, E. But I remember we were. My dad didn't like flying, so we drove a lot of places around the country. Because my dad would do these bowling exhibitions and stuff. So we drive all over the country. He was on tour, and I remember being in the car when the announcement was happening, and my parents just being like, "What the fuck?" I mean.
When the death announcement was happening?
Yes.
Oh no! Wow.
Yes.
Paul.
And I said, my mom said that I said something like really creepily wise as a 5-year-old, which was something to the effect of,
I bet he got laid a lot.
there's going to be more pussy for everyone else. No. I said something about that it would have been difficult for the world to have handled an old Elvis.
Wow.
I know. That was
Fine.
crazy.
Very well done.
I think I was possessed
By Elvis.
by Elvis. Hey, can you take along my man?
Yeah, you know what I was just thinking? I don't think I,
I
can be a
went
good old
to
man.
they have a Graceland traveling exhibit that's at the Westgate in Las Vegas right now, which was the old Hilton, which was where he did his show, and they let us. They took us back to the theater. And they were showing us the spot where he would pray before every show. Like the wood
think
is still
that was
worn
real?
out. They didn't paint that part.
Do you think his religiosity was real?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you got to go through his whole early upbringing, and of course it was. Because he's deep South
Yeah.
Baptist.
You think Kanye's still religious, really?
I have no idea.
I don't
Can't-
know.
Can't
Yeah.
speak for Yeezy.
I just think it's interesting. All these guys that start out religious and then they get super famous and then they just go ape shit and have this baller lifestyle.
Elvis died in
Or are they
77.
still kneeling?
77.
77.
Still
Okay.
checks out with the bicentennial edition.
100%.
Absolutely does, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still. I mean, sometimes when I hear politicians talk about God, I kind of feel like I don't believe that you think
Oh,
that.
no, of
You're saying that because you know
You
that.
want the people to vote for you. They
Yeah.
believe that.
The cool thing about he lived in the penthouse of the Hilton, and he had an elevator in his penthouse that would just go down and open up to the backstage area.
Ooh, that's cool.
And there was a gunshot in the elevator
'cause he
because it was taking too long.
You
So
saw
he
the gunshot?
shot the
That's so cool.
I fucking love Elvis. No one says shit to him. It was fucking Elvis.
This is how I feel.
Especially at that time,
Yeah.
when fame really meant something great, where it's like those people could get away with everything.
Literally everything. Would he have come on your podcast, do you think?
Oh, I wish.
I don't think so.
He did it. Like musicians,
We
I
got
feel like
Paul
it's a
McCartney.
different.
We could have gotten Elvis.
That's true.
Paul McCartney seems pretty well adjusted, though.
Yeah.
Elvis would have had to have gone through a major emotional life transformation.
Oh, that's exactly when you would get him, right after that.
Maybe, but I think when you kind of look at, I think when you start doing the social math of what he was embroiled in and the people that were controlling his life and the drugs that he was on and he clearly needed real therapy.
Yeah.
He clearly had a lot of mom issues and dead brother issues and fame
right.
issues and even being famous at that time and also going from I think it's more common now for people to talk about their feelings, but to go from like the hottest, sexiest, most perfect everything to this kind of like tubby guy who was trying to squeeze into these suits in a time when music was changing.
Yeah, and becoming more
He
visual.
just would have needed help to get it. It just when you do all the social math, you're like, boy, it all checks out that he was going to kill himself
was gonna
sooner or
die.
later with some horrible thing.
Such
He
a
never
bummer.
got that big. Like if you look at him, like even they have they had all his like jumpsuits there in the cases.
Those things are always upsetting. I'm like, really, that small?
I'm like, yeah.
Everyone?
His waist apparently was always like 34 inches.
Well, it's not that he was a massive guy, but I just think just aging naturally.
It's hard.
And having been, like
heartthrob.
this image of himself that everyone had, and obviously that wasn't going to last. And how do you?
I mean, who does that gracefully though? Besides like Paul Newman.
Almost no one.
Alec Baldwin, I think, did it pretty well.
Done a pretty good job.
He's not even. I don't even think he's aged out of being awesome yet.
No,
like he's not dealing with any of that.
We were talking about how Gary Oldman in my lifetime has gone from being sexy young guy to being like playing dads, like in Granddads. Like I've watched him become start playing different roles. He's not like a hot guy anymore. He's like fucking commissioner. Like he's
Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
he's fucking still nailing it. Tom Cruise is still nailing it.
Tom Cruise is still nailing it.
Yeah, he really is.
I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. But that would be a bummer too. I mean, stuff like Kurt Cobain, any of these guys, like to see them getting older is such a. We don't want that as a people. We just don't want it.
Like
it's upsetting to
I do
us.
wonder what it would have been his 75th birthday. I do wonder what 75-year-old John Lennon would be like.
Yeah,
probably
Buddhist. I feel like they would go Buddhist.
No, I honestly, I think. Do you think John Lennon would have turned into like crazy old Ted Nugent guy?
No,
really?
No, I don't think he would have gone right wing. No,
he's got some. He had some hate in him though.
But he's like some of the accounts make him sound like he might have been kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And,
he was kind of a dick.
And kind of going through, and it seemed like he was going through identities that were appropriate for the time. Was he going to be the Imagine guy forever? I don't know if he would have been the Imagine guy forever.
But he had Yoko, though. I feel like Yoko would have tempered him in some direction at all points in time. That would have kept him from being Ted Nugent.
He would have dropped her in 84, and the Beatles were reunited in 85. That's what would have happened. Central Park concert, 1985.
You've got this? You've retconned all this?
Well, you know what's funny is because they were having some money was tied up all over the place with the Beatles, and
Michael Jackson had all the songs.
In 79, a team from the Beatles side of management got together and was seriously looking into a Central Park concert for the Beatles.
Wow.
So would it have been like a Monkees reunion, or would it have been like a...
What do you mean?
Well, the Monkees reunited in the
80s. After they showed them on MTV.
On MTV, they reunited in the 80s and had this really successful tour, but they were basically just playing old songs. Do you think the Beatles would have written new songs? They probably would have. Of course they would have written new songs together.
That's all they do.
Because Paul, that's all Paul, yeah.
I mean, listen to fucking George Harrison's last album. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But I wonder if, like, in any relationship... and this goes back to the thing.
Segue.
Well, this goes back to the thing of because a band is now a four-way relationship in their case. And I think there's no way at that point they could have had common goals. And I think the only goal at that point when people drift so far apart, so you look at the Eagles or the Police, it's like, well, money.
Yeah.
Like they have this common goal of money. They still can't can't bear to be on stage with one another.
Well, that's what happened to that's why the anthology happened. Was they were like, we should probably do something now to make money.
We
don't
or it would have been possible that as they got older they were like, yeah, fuck it, let's just go back and
I would imagine
do it again.
time would heal some of those wounds of like just being in someone's face every single day.
You would want to, because Paul seemed actually not knowing them really personally, but it seems like George seemed like a pretty cool guy. Paul seemed like a pretty cool guy. Ringo seems like a pretty cool guy. If John came around and ended up being a pretty cool guy.
Fine. John and George and Ringo would play on John's records.
Now, are these the Beatles we're talking about?
Those Georges and those Ringo, would play on John's records, and honestly, the only person they never really collaborated with afterwards was Paul.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know, and I'm more of a Monkees fan, and people want to kill me. More of a Monkees fan than a Beatles fan. I'm a huge Monkees fan, and
so you think Mike Nesmith is Paul of the Monkees?
He was the one that was like he got butthurt by a lot of stuff in that band, and he was like, I just don't want to deal with this anymore. I mean, have you guys seen Metallica, Some Kind of Monster?
Yeah, of course.
This is an amazing documentary of like a therapist that goes on tour with Metallica, and it was my dream job. When I saw it, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do.
You could do that? Oh, fuck! I was just talking to these.
Well, did they say what they were paying him in the?
Oh, I don't remember that. I actually don't remember that.
Paying him like $500,000.
Sure. Yeah. I would have done it for free, and not even for Metallica. I love that. Like,
no.
Yeah.
What you say is Metallica. I'll do it for $250.
I would have done it for Metallica. Still would. Give me a call. I just love that idea because it is just like a family or a relationship, anything else. It's people that, have to work together. They're bonded by one specific thing, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a million. Everybody brings their own baggage. Everybody brings their own shit to every interaction they have.
Every interpersonal dynamic is affected by the shit that you bring to
100%.
it. Can you fit all the baggage in the store?
Can you hold all yours?
Bin? Can you hold all yours? And it really does come down to goals. And I think that's why it's important for people to periodically ask. People just don't ask questions. They don't ask good questions.
Yeah.
Even questions of yourself. Is this still what I want? If it's not, could it be what I want? What do I want? Like that people rarely stop to ask those questions, and they're such important questions.
This is, and this is going to be one fuck of a segue, but the book that I wrote that is, it's called Super You. Yes. My biggest thing that I got out of it was both writing it in living and also in writing the book is this idea of intentionality of always stopping to question yourself, always stopping everything that you're doing, constantly asking yourself, is this actually what I want? Is this what someone else has told me that I want? Is this what society is telling me that I want? How do I figure out what I actually want? And then how do I get the thing? Because wanting something and then trying to get it are two different things. And people will tell me all day long about things they desperately want, but they're not ready to make efforts to actually get the thing they want quite yet. That's also fine. Just knowing where you are. And knowing that even if you're making a good decision or like a very self-destructive decision, that you're driving the boat. This is your boat. And refusing to make decisions is also a decision.
Well, I think also sometimes your higher brain functions. I think sometimes you change and you don't realize that you've changed because, look, there's so many things to do in a day to just live life now.
Yes.
And so you set a lot of things on autopilot.
Autopilot, that's exactly right.
And sometimes you really need to stop and go, oh, do I still feel this way about this thing?
Yeah.
Or is that just an old autopilot setting?
Yes.
Because it's so simple. People are always looking for external things to change them or make them feel better when sometimes it's as simple as just asking yourself a good question and coming up with the answer and going, oh, my God, to have that epiphany moment.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even epiphanies. It's like sometimes it's about just these little hints of knowledge that you're getting day to day and being like, well, maybe I'm going to try something different and see how it feels rather than waiting for inspiration to strike and changing. Sometimes you kind of have to start making the changes, see how it's affecting you, and then be like, it turns out this was probably a good idea.
Well, I think social media I think people use it in an ineffective way, which can be sometimes running around to everyone else and going, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Validation.
And not just stopping and being still for a second going, what's wrong with me? Like, what do I want? Like going inward just once, sometimes people don't do that.
It's scary in there.
It is scary.
Yeah, it's real dark in there.
Well, because sometimes, you might get answers back that you don't want to deal with.
You don't want to think about, you don't want to deal with, you're not ready for, and all that is okay too, but address the problem as it is instead of being like, well, the issue is that no one's calling me back about the packet that I sent out on this TV show. No, part of the issue is that you're very scared to get this job. You're very scared what would mean if you got rejected. You actually got rejected for something you really want to do. Well, then deal with that fear. And that's a different, let's deal with the fears that are inside that we can do something about and not all the external things that are freaking us out constantly because we can't do anything about those.
How long did it take you to write the book?
About 5 months. A couple hours a day.
And so the point of the book really is Super You is pretty much in the title, like how to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, how to figure out where you are, figure out where you'd like to be, and then how to kind of take concrete steps in that direction. Because I feel like for a long time I just didn't know who I was even a little bit, and so I couldn't even figure out where I wanted to be because I just was so kind of lost within myself. So it's a little memoir-esque, but it really is kind of more of a self-help book than anything else.
It's so interesting that just the path that you've taken where you were a therapist and then all of a sudden people started learning who you are because of a podcast about video games and a Wednesday night comedy show that became a TV show.
Yeah.
And then you were able to use that to go, oh, this is this other thing that I'm into, and I'm going to make a book about that. Because I'm sure it would have been very easy for you to write a book about video games or
Which is what they were trying to get me to do. Yeah, how to be like a better nerd or whatever. And I was like, I can't. That's not. First off, it's been done.
Yeah.
And other people have done it fantastically, and it's not. That's not how I see myself kind of contributing to the world. That's not it. I will make a podcast about video games till the end of time, but that, writing a jokey book about nerd culture's taken over, that didn't appeal to me as much. But I kind of made a decision a couple of years ago once I moved to LA and I was feeling very kind of, I was kind of in an identity crisis. I hadn't started Meltdown yet. I hadn't started working, like running the theater yet. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Had a conversation with a stranger at a bar, and she was like, seems like you kind of want to be doing something in mental health. And I was like, fuck, that's right. Damn it. And even if that just started out with writing a blog, like having my own blog where I talk about mental health stuff, and then that tripping into writing stuff for other websites about mental health, and that tripping into, I was like, yeah, everything I do, I want it to have some sense of you're not alone, some sense of that tinged somewhere in there. And I've tried really, really hard to do that as much as I could.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that people with mental health issues face?
It depends on how. I think that feeling like you're both special and you're not special. In that, yes, nobody else has lived life exactly as you have, but you're not the only person who struggled with feeling like a failure, feeling like a fraud, being terrified, being depressed, being anxious. A lot of people have experienced this. A lot of people have felt like everybody else is doing great and I'm doing terribly. Most of us have felt that way, and I think what mental illness and what emotional not health, whatever that term is. I should know that as a former therapist, but
emotional not health.
Emotional not health. What it wants is for you to feel alone. It wants to get you alone because that's how it can eat at you, and that's how it can kind of feed on you. And don't let you be alone. You're not alone. You're like, there's so many of us, and there are so many communities out there. Thank God to the internet. Thank God to all this stuff that you can find other people feeling as you are. Because you're not alone.
Yeah, who the fuck does Elvis Presley talk to?
Exactly.
That relates to him.
Yeah. Celebrities are different.
That's a funny thing. George Harrison said that in the Beatles anthology. He's like, I always felt bad for Elvis.
Yeah.
Because with Elvis,
he had no peers.
He didn't. With us, I could just talk to John or Ringo or Paul. But with Elvis, who do you turn to?
Yeah. Nobody.
Who do you turn to?
He doesn't, like, his family's
TCB gang?
No family. It's, everyone's gone. Like, yeah, I mean, and who else can understand that level of, no one else can come in and go, I totally get it. No, you don't.
Yeah, and that's true. Elvis was alone.
But he is...
Elvis was alone.
But if you're not Elvis, you're probably not alone. Everyone who is not Elvis.
So lucky for all of us who are not Elvis. Yeah, you're not alone. What you're going through, wherever you are, is where you're supposed to be right now. It's okay. They're not doing anything wrong, but you can also feel better. You can feel better. You can live better. You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
It's sometimes it's hard when you're in it, and I think that's the Sarlacc pit of depression, which is, and anxiety too. Anxiety, every time it's happened, every time I experience it, and I'm getting better about it now, but recognizing that it's just a thing and not, because you're with depression, when you're in it, oh well, this is it. I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know. With anxiety, it's, oh, I know the other times that was just a fake anxiety thing, but this time it's real, and it's real, and it tricks you every single time. Yeah. And that's what it's almost like. The biggest struggle is the illusion that it's like
everything.
That it's everything, and you can't. Oh, I know I got out of it before, but this time that's not gonna. This one's different. And a lot of the times it's not different. It's like it's the same.
Yeah.
And being able to even recognize it as a pattern sometimes is enough to sort of help you just get enough of a boost.
A foothold. Just a tiny foothold to climb out of that pit. Because it isn't forever. It is just right now. But I have that thing too, where whatever I'm feeling right at this moment, that's how I've felt forever. That's how I'll feel for the rest of my life. That's it. And you have to kind of back yourself away from that and get a little objective distance. I talk about that a lot, of like, you need to be able to kind of look at your life almost like a reality show sometimes. And some of us are too good at it, and that's a problem too. But like being able to step outside yourself and be like, okay, let's take a look at what's actually happening. If there was like a reality show filming my life, would it see that this is how I've been forever? Would it see that I'm having kind of a shitty day? And that maybe I should just wait until the next day to try and like figure out what things are going, and being able to back away just a little bit and kind of get some distance and kind of see your life as objectively as possible, which is very, very hard to do because we are so in it, has helped me tremendously. Because when I used to call it the wallow, I would like, whatever I was feeling, I would wallow in it. I couldn't feel anything a little bit. I like everything was like, oh God. Like I just was like, I cry in English class, like just over a boy that I could not give a shit about. Like, why am I crying over this guy? I think I have a wealth of emotions, and I've learned to kind of be okay with it now. But for a long time, I felt like I was drowning in them a lot. Yeah.
And how did you?
Very long. Well, for me, it took going the opposite direction, clamping down on them for years and and intellectualizing everything, not letting myself feel anything, dating circus performers so that I had no chance of them hurting me because I didn't take them seriously. I wasn't taking myself seriously. Yeah. Cult members. I had some.
Oh my God.
I dated dudes for the story for like a while. And
Are you serious?
Oh, big time. And God bless those guys. You're all great if you're listening to this. But they knew what they were doing. They're cult. But like, one guy would like pretend to like guess what I was thinking, like a number I was thinking, and I would be like, "Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God."
But he wasn't the number.
Of course not. He wasn't psychic. He was just like a bored guy. Well, it's fine. And then I just had this very icy kind of detached from my emotions completely. And then I kind of slowly kind of started letting them back in. But for me, I had to go through that. I had to like realize I could make my emotions my bitch and kind of put them in this little hole before I let them start advising me rather than driving. They should be in the passenger seat. I always put them in the driver's seat. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Even just those subtle thought shifts can help change the way.
Yeah.
You know, it might seem dumb to go, oh, I'm just going to visualize that this emotion is in the passenger seat of a car, but then you do it, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that actually kind of helps. You know,
yeah.
when I was getting over fear of flying.
You had a fear of flying?
Oh, sure, yeah, for years. I got over it. I mean, like, I had to work through it.
Poor career choice for you, buddy.
Well, but that's the thing that
Yeah.
kind of made me go, have to choose to not, where I had to go like, well, I'm going to do stand-up on the road. I can either get over this or every time I travel it's going to be miserable, and I don't have that much emotional energy at all. And so I found this really great program called Fly Calm, and it was really great. I would just listen to it on the plane when I was getting on, and it really helped. And sometimes I still listen to it just because I like it. Like, I just got used to it. But there is something in there. There's something in the program. I think I just got it on iTunes. But there's something in the program where, you know, it tells you to visualize taking all of your worry and fear and all your emotional stuff and sticking it in an overhead compartment and closing the door.
Ooh, I like that.
And so even just visualizing doing that,
Yeah.
it weirdly just helps you.
That's
it
interesting.
sort of works.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, it's incremental. But every time I started flying when I was actively trying to it just got a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less, and then after a few months, after a year,
Fit under the seat.
Yeah, that didn't fit under the seat. It was in
You
the
had to
overhead-
check a couple of them.
in the upper compartment, and also in my brain, the airline was charging me for all of the extra
every
emotional
penny.
baggage. Yeah, totally worth
It's
it. You know,
worth
they
it,
got to
yeah.
make money too.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that incremental thing is important because I think people think when they make changes, if it doesn't work 100% the first time, they're like, well, fuck it, I tried.
well, you're setting yourself up for failure.
100%.
When, you know, if you kind of do this thing, especially like fitness is the easiest example where you go, oh, fuck, I haven't worked out in a long time. And you're like, I'm going to work out 10 times this week. It's not healthy.
No.
Not only is it not healthy, but it also, you're probably not going to stick to it because
you're miserable.
You're going to be miserable
Yeah.
and it's going to be awful. So you got to, you know, a little bit of incremental, like, oh, I'll just, you know, because if you just make incremental changes, small changes that are easy to manage and are digestible, you will, the cumulative effect will be once you figure out how to manage that little bit, then you can add on something else, and then you can add on something else, and it won't even feel like work at that point. It's like, oh, I've figured this out. Maybe I'll just try. Maybe I'll work out twice a week. You know, like it. But yeah, I wouldn't say like, don't quit drinking, quit smoking, change your diet, and start exercising 5 times a week in the same
In the
day.
same way. And if you decide to do that and decide that that's how you're going to approach it, maybe you're not quite ready to let go of those things. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's your way of being like, well, this will fail inevitably.
Well,
and then
that also has the undercurrent of like, oh, you just need to obsess over things.
Sure.
As opposed to, you know,
That's very true.
if you really want success in this area, then it needs to be, and that's very difficult. It's very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me, you know, because the alcoholic brain isn't just about drinking. It's about like I approach that.
I want it. I want it all.
Well, there's a lot of things that are sort of like obsessive thought, and I really had to learn how to, even in relationships, you know, when I used to sort of crave drama, and I think it was sort of a way of getting a high.
Oh,
the
yeah.
same way with alcohol.
It feels great. And then you know someone cares.
Yeah.
You're sure that they care because they're making a big fuss, and that's how you know.
And there's passion,
Oh,
and there's
yes.
like, oh, and then there's making up, and then
Yes.
there's you know.
Yes.
and learning to just be still and calm, and like Lydia is so easy to be around, and that was kind of maddening at first because I'm like, it's fine, it's okay just to
I'm one of those too. I have that problem too.
It's really in the year we've been together, I think the biggest altercation was something like, hey, what are you? Oh, this is silly, because like you said, we sort of have those goals of like, we've both had troubled relationships in the past, and you're
both grown-ups,
and we're both grown-ups, and we both just want, like, our goal is to, hey, we just want to be happy together and understand each other and have a good relationship, and
own a publishing empire.
Get a couple things on the list.
Well, I can't give her a publishing empire. So
wow.
She's very
okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Although I'm gonna make her sign a prenup for my adorable TV money.
It's gonna be so cute when the Hearst lawyers look that over.
You guys,
upon you.
I'm gonna make her sign a prenup on Hello Kitty stationery. It's so adorable.
We're like, I gotta keep all my Doctor Who shirts. You don't get a single one of those.
I don't know. And then, something terrible happened. I'm sure their lawyers will be like, we found a loophole where you can get all the shirts. God damn it!
That's so fun.
But I think just sort of, learning to be calm is
and appreciating calm.
And appreciating calm, and not being bored by calm, and not being self-destructive with calm, because you need to, like up and down and up and down. It's not having that. I realized that there was an emotional drug behind that, and I go, well, fuck, of course, it's connected to all that other shit.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have regular therapy. And I tell people, even when you don't think you have a problem, it's important because it's important for you to sit down with someone on a regular basis and say whatever is on your mind, whatever you're feeling, without fear of judgment, and someone who has the experience to reflect some things back to you and get you to ask good questions and explore. It's really
a spa
helpful.
day when you're doing well. To me, it's like a massage when you're doing well, and then it's there when you're not doing as well. And it's like a relationship like no other. It's none of your friends'
Or like
jobs.
a chiropractor when you're not doing well. Crack.
Oh, I'm fine. It's not your friend's job to like just listen to you talk and never have any of their own stories. Like,
right.
Yeah. And if your therapist is ever telling you about their lives, get another therapist. That's not some you can develop a personal relationship with, but it's not a two-way street. It is a one-way street, 100%. And you never get a chance to have that in life. What a lovely thing that we get to actually experience that. Everybody should be in therapy all the time.
That's funny that you say that, because when I talk, a lot of my therapy sessions are by phone just because of my schedule. And so, she'll go, how are you doing? And I go, I'm doing okay. How are you? And she was like, we're here to talk about you.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, of course.
That's right. I forgot about that. It was, and sometimes it's a struggle, but the only thing that makes you a good therapist is that you've had personal experience in the same thing. You're not that great of a therapist. You should have more tools because you can't experience everything that everybody's gone through.
Right. But you should still be able to have the point of view that can sort of, because I think most emotional struggles usually come from the same handful of
the emotions underneath
of reasons.
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like it's almost like DNA. There's like a handful of base ingredients just reconfigured in different ways, and it's like sort of tearing through and going, okay, this is your configuration, and that's what these basic elements are.
Yeah, and I felt that. You feel scared. I felt scared. That's an emotion we've had in common, but the way you're feeling it, very different than how I felt it. I had a client when I was an intern, best teacher I've ever had. He's like a 7-year-old boy. I can't say his name.
But here's his Twitter account.
He had been abused, and we were going through I was trying to take him through some relaxation stuff, and I was like, and he was African-American young man, and I was like, so imagine yourself at the beach. And he was like, God, Miss Emily, why do white people always want me to go to the beach? I don't like the beach. And I was like, bing, that's it. That set off like, oh my God, you're right. That's where I would go if I wanted a relaxing
so fascinating.
scene. That's not where you would want to go.
You were making it about yourself without realizing
without even realizing. And without realizing, he was like, all you white therapists I've had want me to go to the beach. I don't want to. And I was like, okay, where do you want to go? He wanted to go to Disneyland. So we then set up a scene, which doesn't seem like a calm place to me. Very sorry, Matt.
I love it.
But he wanted to go to Disneyland. So then we reconstructed a whole thing based on Disneyland. And I was like, let me never forget this lesson of you can't assume
all
anything.
White people want to go to the beach.
And that young man was Bernie Mac.
God, how great. Having Bernie Mac as your client is the thing.
What if I don't understand that now? Whenever I see an African American, I'm like thinking about Disneyland. You know,
You're like, nope, not today. Not today.
not.
Yeah, you're racist in the other way. You can be racist in two different ways.
By the way, this kid was right. I would way rather go to Disneyland than the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
get
being
that.
racist as a Democrat. She was being racist as a Republican.
Well, I just think, you know, the beach, it's like, it's sandy
It's hot,
and
yeah.
it's hot.
Yeah.
And, you know, Disneyland is just, although you don't always see it at Disneyland, but it should be pure joy.
Should
But
be,
you
yeah,
see
you
a
do.
lot of exhausted families. And
Have you seen that blog of like angry celebrities at Disneyland?
oh my God,
So
no.
great. Look that up. It's either mad or sad celebrities at
Hey, what are you
Disneyland.
doing? Get on there.
And it's like Billy Corgan sitting on a and just like looking furious and upset that they're at Disneyland. Most likely they're upset that someone's taking their photo at Disneyland.
Or maybe they're not even upset at all. It's just sort of like, I mean,
Resting face.
I think they just have, like, some people just have bored resting face.
True.
And that in a snapshot of a moment that, you know, I think that's what some people who judge celebrities or judge anything based on one image, one picture, one sentence. It's like, look, dude, if someone followed you around all day long and cataloged everything you said, anything, there are so many times that a joke or an expression or something could be taken out of context.
Oh, sure.
And do you want to have your entire existence judged on a half a second?
judged and destroyed.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous that's where people are at.
We're at a very black and white place, black or white place in society of like, you either need to be good all the time or you need to, if you mess up once, you are dead.
But good is actually, but good and bad, which are subjective
Very subjective,
terms,
yeah.
and based on individual preferences, it's an impossible standard because you can't be good to everyone all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm pretty. Katie just found.
I mean, he does look pretty upset, doesn't
Katie
he?
just found the vlog. Yeah.
God bless Billy Corgan.
Is that Big Thunder Mountain or is that the Snow White Mine Train? Okay. Okay.
There's quite a few of them.
'Cause
And I love
there's a picture of me
one
and
of the Kardashians. I don't know who that is. That's she's a gorgeous model. I can't think of her name.
Alessandra, yeah.
That's Jennifer Garner looking upset.
Wait, who was the one with the? Was that a Kardashian? I think
That was a Kardashian.
I think the goofy hat was. I think that's no. Oh, that was Beyonce. Oh, it was okay.
Has that ever been said on your podcast? The goofy hat was Beyonce.
The goofy
You know that we normally can't recognize
and not
her.
goofy as a colloquialism. It was literally goofy.
She was wearing a goofy
Yeah,
hat.
she was literally wearing a goofy hat with
It's
the
one
teeth.
of the few times that you won't be like, "Oh my God, that's Beyonce!" Immediately, it's a goofy hat on Beyonce. It's a great blog. I enjoyed myself thoroughly on that one. I think it's great. When I have seen celebrities at theme parks, I love it. I love that they're like, "No, fuck it, I need to still go to Disneyland."
I think there is going to be some type of an emotional implosion at some point of everyone feeling, and not just celebrities, but everyone's online, of everyone ultimately feeling on guard all the time and trying to monitor everything they do to be perfect. This goes back to being perfect or not perfect.
Yeah.
And not perfect is instant failure. It's like,
Yep.
it's not. It's fucking, we're humans, you know? Like,
we have to evolve.
if someone says something stupid, don't fucking attack them. Ask them why they said it, or get some context, or try to understand. But, you know, fighting, you can't fight extremism with extremism. You can't fight, if you think someone is making a crazy statement, you know, maybe it was taken out of context, or maybe they didn't
Yeah.
really say it, or maybe there was a reason, or maybe you know.
Or maybe they're a person that you never would have interacted with before if there wasn't Twitter. There are horrible people in my hometown that say horrible things that I used to hear them say when I would be at the diner in my hometown. Why do I give more credence to them now that they're typing it?
Right.
Like, why people who say things that are against you or whatever, again, opposite of what you believe, are always going to exist. I don't know if we need to keep a catalog of them all the time. Like, if someone yells at me on Twitter and they, you know, or someone I've never met, never will meet, they don't like, or they're not on Twitter a ton, they just seem to only attack people on Twitter. Was I ever going to interact with you before Twitter? Was that ever going to be a thing where we'd have a moment
side
to talk?
note, if you're ever going to hire me for a high-profile job, hire someone to go through my Twitter before you announce
Cleanse
my...
it. Cleanse that feed.
Before you announce.
I'm sure 2010 Matt was saying some real dumb shit.
Oh, 2015 Matt says real dumb shit.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that you can't, you know, you can't judge a person's entire existence based on one tweet,
Yeah.
or one joke, or one, because everyone says dumb things at one time or another, and everyone, I mean, literally everyone,
Yeah.
and but also this policing of, You know, it's sort of like that's an interesting metaphor looking at the Disneyland thing, because that's kind of what our what modern culture has become. We're all on this ride, and there are people in the back that you've never heard of that are looking like 50 rows ahead and going, "Hey, that guy's not enjoying this the same way that I am. Fuck him." It's like, well, you fucking pay attention to yourself. You know,
Yeah.
You haven't seen your kids
Are
in
you
3
having
days.
fun?
Why don't you pay attention to your fucking kids?
Why
you know
don't
what
you
I
have
mean?
a good time?
Yeah, you don't need to police everyone else.
For your information, sir, my wife is standing by at the child swap. Her turn is next. Now enjoy this.
That was your context. That was the context that you needed. I like that. I'm always a big fan of context, especially for things like that, because I watched people that I had sometimes respect for when I was growing up say horrible, sometimes racist, hateful things, and then when you talk to them, you see that they're scared. They're scared that the way that they thought the world works is different, and they don't know what to do about it. And I was like, oh, the fear makes sense to me. Like that, I get that. I get being afraid that things are changing. Change is scary.
Now I just think people. Now I think it's unfortunately much more insidious and self-serving than I think people would realize. But running around and trying to call everyone out on stuff is so much more selfish than it is altruistic, because I think there are legitimately some people that want positive social change, and I think those people go about it in positive ways and constructive ways. They really do try to understand, but it feels like the majority of people just want to finger point and tear down because it makes them feel better about themselves, and that is selfish. That is inherently selfish. When you are trying to achieve significance through someone else's downfall, it doesn't matter, you know, if you think you're on the right side of the argument. That's mechanically is a bad way to go
It's
about
not a good
life.
way to build good juju for yourself.
Well, it also just doesn't foster positivity. It doesn't foster learning. Like, people don't learn when you yell at them.
Yeah.
People learn when you talk to them and try to understand, even if you don't agree with them, rather than finger point. Look at this fucking piece of shit. You know, I mean, you know, comedy is comedy. It's silly. Like, comedy is supposed to be satirical, but people do that for serious.
Yeah,
like,
a lot.
you know, there's a lot of things that we say on At Midnight that I would never say in life, like in a real situation to a real person. But you know, but I feel like there's just so much aggression of, like, there's so much barking now.
And I think that aggression could be really useful if pointed in a direction that is towards change rather than towards taking away of something.
Right.
So that I try to, when I'm having a day where I want to scream at everyone online, which happens all the time, I intentionally don't let myself do it. And then I try to do something that is productive in some capacity. I'm a huge volunteering nerd, and I think to me, it eases all wounds and all, like, frustrations. And I try to do it as much as I can. I donate money. If I'm super angry and I can't stop being angry, I donate money to someone that I believe is doing something good.
Oh, what a great idea.
Every single time, I try to. I do an exchange.
That's a positive way to use anger rather than
I'm
attacking.
so fucking mad. And if you don't have the money, then have the time to do it. Like that, I used to not have money to donate to stuff, and then I would donate my time. Like, donate something of yourself that can help to people that you do like, rather than focusing on the people you don't like.
It would just be nice, but I think most people don't have this level of awareness. But it would just be nice if the people who are constantly trying to tear down, even if they think they're on the right side, even if you agree with them, it's like, hey man, don't make enemies out of your allies.
Yeah.
Like, don't approach things that way. I wish people would understand that kind of attacking, that type of tearing down, you know, like, that doesn't count as your
Doing
community
work,
service.
right? That's not volunteering.
It's not volunteering. You're
Yeah.
not making the world a better place.
Yeah.
You're making the world a more aggressive place. Community service really is going out and donating your time, like sending a tweet. Yeah, fuck that guy. You know, like, fucking tear that thing down. Like, that doesn't count as your community service. That counts as you serving your own ego.
You feel a little better. And I also think it's easy to get caught in that loop, because I feel like I've felt myself being pulled into it and being like, oh shit, like, this could happen to anybody. I feel like even really, really good people have gotten sucked into this, like, kind of negativity, calling other people out. Really amazing, smart, wonderful, aware people have gotten pulled into it. And I wonder if some of them have that same thing you were talking about, of that addiction to drama.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that if you don't feel significant, everyone wants significance in some way or another.
Absolutely.
I feel like part of life, and even when you look at biologically, you know,
I
like,
matter?
Do I matter? Because, you know, when you break it down, of course, at the very basic level, we are beings who ultimately want to live on in some way. Is it through genetics, or do we want to pass our genes down? Do we want to pass our ideas down? But I feel like we would not exist
genes
as a species.
won't fit me.
I feel like good ad. I feel like we would not exist as a species if we didn't have this desire to thrive in some way.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that expresses itself.
I don't know.
as
The Neanderthals had that thrive, guys, and we fucking wiped them off the face of the earth.
because they were wrong. Hashtag cancel Neanderthals.
Their
They
art
looked
was not
different,
good. Their
and
art was
we
not good.
fucking
Bad art.
destroyed them.
Yeah. America did this to you, Neanderthals.
I mean, if they put emojis up on those walls, oh damn!
That's the only way they could communicate was through emoji.
Good ad, Matt.
A lot of eggplant emojis
Oh,
in
so
the
many.
Neanderthals. Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, but I think that part of it is just trying to establish some type of I matter, I am significant, and I understand the. I certainly understand the desire to do that, the urge to do that, but I don't think that's the right way to go about it.
There's a lot of ways to be significant. I think that's what another thing people don't. They think they need to be famous in this town specifically. People think they need to be famous to be significant. That's not true in the slightest.
Well, I also think what we were talking about earlier is that change through aggression is the same type of thing as like I'm gonna all of a sudden work out 10 times a week. It's like that is an extreme. I think real lasting change is calm and incremental and understanding.
It's passionate, but perhaps not aggressive.
Well, yeah, because no one, even if you force someone to believe, even if you force someone to go, okay, fine, you're right. They're not gonna they're just gonna resent you. You know what I mean?
That's like forcing someone to stay with you who wants to break up with you. Do you know those people?
Yes.
I always talk to people like, how can I make them stay with me? Like, do you want to be with someone who you're forcing to stay with?
But then I win. What are you winning?
Like, think about your ultimate goal here. What is it that you want? You may not know at this point because you can't force someone to be in love with you.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
I wish you could.
I don't know
Tom
if you
Hiddleston.
want to, though. I don't know if you...
Look up.
You're married.
Right. Good point. Great point. So happily. But that, very, very happily. And I'm not even into white dudes, really. But that white dude, man, I just saw 2 movies with him in it this weekend.
He's
so
the one
good.
white dude.
Yeah.
He's the one white dude.
What about Hardy?
Yeah, he's probably at the beach.
I hope not. Don't lose that white skin, that milky white skin,
He's
Tom.
definitely not at the beach.
Yeah.
He's British. He's definitely not at the beach.
Hardy? Yeah,
Tom
all
Hardy.
right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
You're also
When I
into
saw
him.
him freelance rap that one time on camera, I was like, man, I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you saw his MySpace
Freelance
profile.
rap.
Freelance? Thank you.
No. He doesn't
He
have
goes
a
around,
label.
he doesn't have one
He
boss.
doesn't have a label.
He
was
raps for...
freelancing.
Yeah, he's
Like,
a
let me turn in my W-9 and then we can start. I will invoice you for this rap later.
Oh, I needed to bring my ID to drop these sick beats. How many dependents do I have?
Could you pay my S-Corp?
I'm not going to kick him out of bed for eating crackers or whatever, but,
What rhymes with S-Corp?
Nest Corp? No, not at all.
Doesn't work.
No, not
I'm
at
a
all.
bad freelance rapper. Bad. Oh, I'm no good at that.
That would be great. We're still trying to come up with
Winthrop?
puns, all of us are, I can tell.
But you're, Emily, we're at an hour.
Thank you.
We're gonna
I
have
appreciate it.
to
I'll see you guys
have to
next
pick
week.
this up next week. I do feel like sometimes these podcasts are like therapy sessions, but it's good, It's and because I think we're all trying to learn about ourselves, in as much as we're trying to help discover things for other people. But I am actually very excited to read your book.
Oh, thank you.
Because I've always had such great affection for you. You're such a kind, gentle, wonderful person to be around,
Aw.
and also someone who is very uncomfortable with compliments. You should have seen her when we did the when I dropped in
You
at
were about to,
Meltdown.
yeah.
And someone who was on stage promoting your book.
Joan and Camille constantly are on stage promoting
She
my
was
book.
so flustered and like, stop it, don't! I gotta learn how to take compliments.
Oh, no, I
like
couldn't.
genuinely.
I'm very southern in that
flustered.
way that I'm like, if you compliment me, I'll be like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't think so.
Should I bring you up on stage? You say, no, don't you dare.
I'm getting better at that. I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. But yes, thank you. Thank you for the nice things you said.
I think for a very constructive and warm, sincere book in sort of real terms, I think people should check out Super You and follow you on the appropriate platforms. The Gynomite, Gynomite.
That is correct.
Did you ever explain? I know you explained to me why you picked that.
I used to do burlesque dancing, and that was my burlesque name.
Are you serious? I didn't know that.
Dynamite. You have to say it like that.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
And my
You've had the most interesting life of anyone I've ever met. You were a therapist, and you dated circus, and you were burlesque, and you're married to a comic, and you book a comedy show, and you do a video game podcast,
So
and
many
you wrote
things.
this is fucking
so many things.
You're the perfect example of like what it means to be in our culture, of like being able to do a lot of different things, you know, and not have to just stick to one thing and then integrate all of those things.
The best I can. I don't burlesque dance at all anymore. My teacher, when I told her what my name was going to be, everybody else was like Vivian Lessex or whatever. and I'm sure that was an actual one. And she was like, that's a little too jokey. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's my name.
Vivian Lessex.
I have so much respect for the art of burlesque, and my teacher was an amazing woman, and I haven't done it since then because she was so good. I haven't found anybody to
What is
match her.
What is the essence of good burlesque?
It's a tease. It's not about how much skin you show. It's about the fact that you are making the audience want you to take it off, and you are taking your fucking time with it. It helped me a lot, and I recommend to all girls get into a burlesque class to rediscover, to understand your sexuality in a way that belongs to you and nobody else. Because you're dancing only for you, especially when you're in the classes. You aren't dancing for dudes.
Because you're only giving people what they want when you feel like it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it was like, oh, my sexuality can exist without a dude being present. It doesn't
Right.
have to have a dude there. It could just be mine. It doesn't have to belong to anybody else.
Dudes have known that for years. We jerk off a lot.
Yeah, dudes, and I do think dudes have more of a sense of like, this is mine and I will give it to you. Whereas ladies are like, I'll just be waiting here for when you're ready to let me.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm curious. Is men? I mean, everyone is different. But do women ever go? I'm really bored. I guess I could jerk off. You know what I mean?
I do. If Camille's out of town, it's the same thing as anybody else. Where it's like, well, I guess I'll do that. And then maybe I'll figure out something to write or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll go for a walk. It's the same.
Best way to work through writer's block.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess, and then I'll figure, and then we'll get a pizza. I don't know.
Maybe I'll work out or something. I don't
Okay,
know.
good. I'm glad.
Sandwiches from the coffee beans.
Because my question was unfortunately male and tone deaf, and I just have never I've never asked that question
A lot
before.
of ladies I know, a lot of us have the same, like, well, especially.
I could do that.
Yeah, for me, it's like, it's when Kumail's not there, but for especially my single lady friends are like, well, that's how you start the day. You got to clear the chambers and then you get to work.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Clear. I never. Yeah. All right. Interesting.
You can also find me on Tumblr at emilyvgordon.tumblr.com.
That's fantastic. What a great idea.
Oh, it's the best. Wait, you don't do that?
What a
No,
great
I'm confused.
idea.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm just so busy in the morning. I don't have
Chris, you're
time.
not masturbating in the morning?
No.
This might explain a lot. I feel like you're going to have a better day.
Masturbating in the morning.
Oh my
You're gonna
God!
have a
Everyone's
better
doing it, you
day.
guys. Everyone's doing it.
You can't crank one off on the toilet while you're waiting to
Well,
Right then.
Make it sound.
Too far,
Make it
Myra.
sound so.
I'm just trying to find time for him. Guy's got a shit, right?
You can't do that at the same time, can you?
Guys
God.
That makes it so veterinary. It's just like
I don't want to know that you can do this.
Figure it all out.
let's see. First, we'll express
Get it
your anal sacs, and then we'll clean out the testicular pipes.
I don't think I could get off if I smelled poo. I don't think that
Matt,
I
I think
could.
you may have
Flush
a.
it.
It doesn't just go away
Thank you.
Does.
unless Matt's ejaculate smells like shit. Maybe that's the only thing it is.
Oh, God. We've got Dory on the line. Dory?
She doesn't know. I'm Catholic.
Oh, good point. Good point. I look forward to you guys figuring that out in a couple
Look
weeks.
forward to the wedding night, guys.
Ooh, boy.
Honey, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go clear all the chambers.
I'm gonna go.
Do a real quick shit come, and then I'll come right back. That's so gross.
Coming on shitting on cum.
Well, this took a good turn.
We're so sincere, and then we just went straight to shit come.
The book is Super You. Now available wherever books are sold.
No, Chris,
books
I just
are sold.
want you to find the time.
I just
Promise me tomorrow that when I see you,
I'm
for
too
the
sleepy
podcast,
in the morning.
you'll have jerked off.
I have too many things in the day.
Don't
like
you
when
wake up with a fucking divining rod?
Oh, man.
you know,
Can't look anybody in the eye. When you look at Scout.
legitimately looked away in the most sincere, like, oh man, now I gotta.
What kind of desk desk is this? Where's this from? This
You know, my days when I wake up, just like the emails come in and I instantly have to, just start dealing
Leave
with
the phone out of the room.
with
Take
stuff.
a minute. Yeah, I would say
Leave the
take a
phone out of
minute
the
in the
room.
morning.
You do you, literally.
You do you.
All right.
Give it a try. Let us know.
Give it a whirl.
I'm not 100% convinced I'm going to report
Give
back
it
on this.
a whirl.
Don't need to. Don't need
No,
to know.
we'll know by your change in demeanor.
You see the look in your eye.
Hey, guys, everything's just so chill, isn't it?
What a great day this
Hey,
is.
man.
What if this has been your why you're wound up all
Your
the time?
career
You just
drive,
had no
everything.
idea.
Incremental change.
Yeah, exactly.
You just jerk off one morning a week, then it could become 2 mornings, then 5 mornings, then all day.
Oh man.
Oh my God! What if I just become like a heroin addict and it's just
I don't want that. Okay, at midnight. I'm sorry, I didn't suggest it. It was more Matt Myra that suggested it. I
this
was
jerk chamber where there's just all these conspiracy theories written in cum all over the walls and all these charts and geometric formulas. Guys,
My boy.
guys, I got it.
one of the filthiest human beings I've ever met in my whole life. That's always my favorite thing about you.
What, me?
Yeah.
Matt's the one who shits while he jerks off.
That's true. That's
No, it
true.
was merely a suggestion. It can be done.
You haven't done it. You've done it.
Of course.
All right then.
We've all done it.
We haven't all done it. I think
All
we've proven
done it.
today that we
Kyle
haven't all
does
done
it.
it.
Katie's doing it right
No! Stop it.
Scout.
Scout's doing it.
now. Kyle does it constantly.
Woo!
What a great idea. Says
Is that
Scout.
Scout's voice?
That's Scout's voice. No, I don't know. That was more of a cat voice, I think.
Oh, you're right. That was more of a.
More of a meow.
I think Scout's. She's got a Hey guys. Hey guys.
For a cat, I don't think a cat's rubbing one out in a litter box. Like that just feels.
No, certainly not. It's too grainy in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what cats do.
Good point.
Not a cat guy.
Great picture of Scout reading my book, by the way. That was really lovely. That was a lovely thing.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
And please come back again soon. And
Sure.
I always adore hanging out with you. And so we'll have some pool parties over at my house, and then but we'll do it in the afternoon, not in the morning.
You'll be busy.
I'm busy.
We show up early and just standing outside.
Nearly every pool party she had this summer, I was somehow out of town.
Yeah, you're always out of town, I feel like. I don't
God,
know.
I'm gonna have to get a
What's
new
going on?
iCal color to just put the time.
Pool blue.
No, not that.
Oh,
The masturbation. You're already looking to schedule
off
it?
white.
Off-white, yeah, the off-white.
All right, guys, you've been great. I gotta go.
Can you schedule things on iCal in increments of like 4 minutes, or does it have to be 15?
That's a great question. I think 15.
Take some time with yourself, though.
Yeah, you're right.
No, we all do it in it's like a 2
It
minute.
takes 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, there's
All
no.
right.
If that.
Good. All right, good. Well, we solved a lot of things, and I adore all of you. And
Might take you a little longer the first time, but as the weeks
Romancing the
progress,
Stone.
hey, I'm gonna be.
I don't know why. I don't even know where that came from. Oh, right then. I think the stone would be the clitoris.
Really hard
in
to
that.
find DeVito, if you know what I mean. Come on, guys. Huh? Come on.
I thought that was the sexiest movie. I had such a crush on Billy Ocean too. It was so weird.
Really?
Yeah, my first real crush was Billy Ocean. I don't get
That's so interesting.
it. Yeah.
What do you mean you don't get it? He was constantly asking you to get out of his dreams.
Wow,
into his
that
car.
He was a handsome dude. I just
And
was like,
Caribbean
why
Queen?
this guy? Why was it this guy of all the people that maybe were closer to my age? But Billy Ocean?
Listen, I don't think I've heard anyone say, Romancing the Stone was great. I'm totally had a crush on Billy Ocean from that.
My first was Gina Davis.
That makes sense.
A League of Their Own.
Oh, so gorgeous! And everybody, the makeup and hair was so on point in that movie.
Something about baseball and.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, I
Tall,
think
hot
even older
redheads.
Gina Davis in that was pretty.
When she was the old lady?
Yeah,
All right then.
It was a different woman.
it was a different woman, but
They
she.
overdubbed.
Yeah.
Wait, was it? Was it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I should go back and rewatch
I
that.
know that. I've talked to Penny Marshall about it.
Oh,
Just kidding.
Madonna
I
was
read
hot
her
in
book.
that movie.
I read her book.
So many great hots in that movie.
so reading a book means you're like talking to a person. So read Super You and talk to Emily.
Yeah, that's right. Have a conversation
There
with
you
me.
Go, and then jerk off after.
Enjoy your morning masturbation burrito. Poop.
This took such. We had been doing so well of not being dirty, and then we just did it all.
The Nerdist Podcast really outdid itself this time. Let me tell you something.
That was great.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.